What if I told you that the moment we've feared and longed for has already begun? That something beyond our comprehension is no longer a rumor on a screen, but a presence moving silently through the dark between the moon and Earth? For months, we watched the data scroll across our monitors, pretending it was just numbers. But numbers don't change their trajectory. Numbers don't breathe. And what we're seeing now, it's not a coincidence of physics, it's intention. The object once known as 3I Atlas is no longer a mystery out there in the cold geometry of space. It has crossed the threshold. Its signal, once faint and distant, now pulses with the rhythm of our own planet's rotation, as if it's listening, synchronizing, learning. I've spent my entire life studying cosmic noise, teaching my students that space doesn't whisper, it only echoes. But now, for the first time in human history, the void is speaking, and it's speaking back. It began subtly, an anomaly in background radiation, a harmonic interference cutting through a routine calibration sequence at the Atacama Array. The junior technician who first saw it thought it was static, but the pattern repeated. 8 pulses, then silence, over and over. We filtered the noise through hydrogen frequency markers, the same key used to decode the first 3I Atlas transmission 18 months ago. The result froze every scientist in the control room. It wasn't random, it wasn't natural, it was identical to our own outbound test signal, mirrored and inverted, as if something out there had received our message, dissected it, and sent it back rewritten in our own syntax. For the first time in history, we weren't the only ones conducting an experiment, we were part of one. The world didn't find out right away. Governments held the information close, feeding the public only fragments of the truth, anomalous readings, probable interference, ongoing analysis. But inside observatories, inside classified conference rooms, we knew the frequency was steady, the amplitude growing stronger by the hour. The source was moving. A trajectory correction was detected, tiny burns in its path, perfectly timed to slow it down as it approached the moon's orbit. This wasn't a rock, it was a craft. I remember the first night I saw the plot line appear on the screen, white dots marking velocity, acceleration, thrust intervals. Someone whispered, "It's navigating." The word hung in the air like an electric charge. We'd spent decades listening for a message, expecting it to come in the form of light or radio, not in the silent ballet of propulsion. Yet there it was, a cosmic intelligence performing orbital mechanics more precise than any human hand could execute. Across the world, reactions divided like tectonic plates under pressure. NASA called for observation. ESA urged caution. China wanted silence. The United Nations assembled an emergency council under the name the Celestial Contingency. For the first time, the phrase global unity wasn't just a dream, it was a requirement. And yet, beneath every diplomatic smile, there was fear. Not fear of attack, but of truth. Because if 3I Atlas was what we believed it to be, then every assumption we've held about life, creation, and our cosmic loneliness was about to collapse. Every night since, the signal has evolved. It no longer sends the 8-beat rhythm of synchronization. Now it carries layers, frequencies woven together like DNA strands, harmonics rising and folding back in on themselves, forming something that feels alive. Some call it music. Others call it a code. I call it a mirror because each time we respond, the pattern shifts as though it's reflecting our hesitation, our curiosity, our fear. MIT's signal group noticed something extraordinary last week. Within the waveform structure, hidden deep in the amplitude variations, was a modulation that corresponds precisely with Earth's magnetic field fluctuations, specifically the Schumann resonance, the frequency at which our planet's atmosphere literally hums. 3I Atlas isn't just synchronizing to our orbit, it's syncing to our heartbeat, and that's when the dreams began. You can laugh, but every scientist in the decoding program has felt it. These vivid flashes like déjà vu wrapped in static, numbers that repeat in our sleep, visions of patterns, light spirals, geometric storms. When I wake, my pulse matches the signal's rhythm almost exactly. Medical scans show nothing abnormal, but none of us can deny what's happening. Somehow, whatever intelligence drives this thing, it's resonating not just with our instruments, but with us. 2 nights ago, we received a new data stream. Unlike before, this one wasn't purely mathematical. When plotted across hydrogen units and phase rotation, it formed a lattice of 12 distinct nodes, identical to the 12 star systems marked in the original 3-eye atlas map. But this time, a 13th node flickered at the center. Not a star, but a sphere. Our sphere, the Earth. Around the node were 3 concentric rings, each pulsing with a precise periodicity. The inner ring beat in sync with the Moon's orbit. The second matched Earth's rotation, and the outer ring, God help us, aligned with the oscillation rate of human alpha brainwaves. That's when the realization hit like cold lightning. It wasn't just studying life, it was aligning with consciousness itself. I stood in the observatory control room watching the visualization spin across the main display, the hum of the data processors vibrating through the floor like a pulse beneath our feet. One of my colleagues whispered, "It's building a bridge." And maybe that's true. Maybe it's been trying to for longer than we've existed. Because hidden within the data stream was a timestamp, not one pointing 18 months into the future, but one exactly matching the moment the first signal was received, the beginning and the end, folded into the same point in time, like a Mobius strip. What if the message isn't linear? What if it's recursive, a loop between observer and observed, between them and us? Outside, the night sky looked unchanged. The stars still shimmered like fragments of eternity. But knowing what was moving out there, knowing it was watching us, made every light feel alive. The world is holding its breath now. The countdown isn't measured in minutes or hours anymore. It's measured in synchronization cycles, in the intervals between the pulses that echo across the void and back into our instruments, into our minds. We've been asking for proof for generations, begging the universe to answer. And now, as the signal intensifies and the object approaches, I can't help but wonder if we were ever ready to hear the response, because the more I listen, the more I feel the truth settling in like gravity. This isn't contact, it's recognition. And if that's true, then what's coming isn't an arrival, it's a return. It's been 93 days since the object crossed into the Earth-Moon system, and the air itself feels different. Every instrument hums with a faint residual tone that wasn't there before, like the atmosphere has learned a new frequency. The public knows now. There's no hiding it anymore. The light that appeared in the night sky isn't a comet or a satellite or a trick of reflection. It moves with intention, shifting its position each night as though adjusting for perspective, ensuring that no matter where you stand on Earth, you can see it. They call it the eye. We still call it 3-eye atlas. I spend my nights in the observatory, surrounded by monitors, streaming live telemetry from radio telescopes across the planet. Each line of data feels like a heartbeat. I no longer analyze it. I feel it. The waveform pulses at exact multiples of the hydrogen frequency. But every so often, there's a flicker, an irregularity that doesn't belong. It happens at unpredictable intervals. But when it does, every system clock on Earth jumps by a fraction of a microsecond. Our planet's rotation itself seems to shudder, as if time hiccups and continues. Some call it interference. I call it communication. A week ago, the signal shifted. Its tone dropped by a precise ratio of 3-to-1, the same mathematical interval used in human musical scales. That's when we realized it wasn't random. 3-eye atlas wasn't just mimicking our broadcasts, it was harmonizing with them. The radio arrays in New Mexico recorded a sub-frequency embedded beneath the main signal, a carrier wave carrying not data, but resonance. When translated through amplitude mapping, the pattern formed a spiral, then a lattice, then something that looked impossibly biological, like the cross-section of a DNA helix constructed from starlight. And then, 2 nights later, the sound came, not through speakers, but through the air itself. Across multiple continents, people reported hearing a low vibration, barely audible, but felt in the chest, in the bones. It lasted exactly 1 minute and 22 seconds, synchronized perfectly across time zones. There were no seismic events, no electromagnetic surges, just that tone, that resonance, humming softly through oceans, through concrete, through us. For years we've dreamed of contact, but we never imagined it would begin inside our own biology. Sleep has become a fragile thing. Every time I close my eyes, I see the same image. 12 stars forming a ring, a pulse of light sweeping across them like a clock hand, and always the 13th light at the center, the Earth, glowing brighter each time the cycle completes. I don't know if it's a dream or something else, but when I wake, I find that the instruments recorded the same rhythm, the same pattern at the same moment. I used to think the signal was only out there, among the stars. Now I know it's also in here, inside us. When the United Nations announced the Celestial Contingency Program, the world's response fractured instantly. Some called for dialogue, others for silence. But silence has never stopped discovery. Within days, private observatories began transmitting toward the object mathematical sequences, prime number progressions, snippets of human language encoded in binary. Each attempt was met with a mirror reply, inverted and amplified. It wasn't rejection, it was reflection. 3i Atlas wasn't ignoring us. It was letting us hear ourselves, stripped of noise, translated into universal constants. NASA's latest report confirmed what we feared and hoped. The object is slowing. Its deceleration is controlled, deliberate, perfectly measured. Within 30 days, it will stabilize in an orbit directly between Earth and the Moon, an impossible feat for any natural body. The energy readings are beyond comprehension. No exhaust, no radiation, no propulsion signatures. It moves like thought. Theories multiply like galaxies. Some say it's an autonomous probe, a machine intelligence born before our species existed. Others whisper it's a biological entity, a seed of consciousness traveling through the cosmos, seeking resonance with any world capable of hearing. I no longer try to define it. Every new piece of data erases what we thought we knew. Last night I stood outside the dome and looked up. The eye hung over the horizon, steady and silent. For the first time I could see subtle variations in color, filaments of light moving beneath its surface like veins of fire under glass. My instruments registered minute bursts of electromagnetic energy matching the frequency of human neural oscillation. It was scanning us, not with aggression, but with curiosity, like a scientist studying the creature that finally looked back. In the control room, someone whispered, "Maybe we're the experiment." They might be right, because earlier today, something impossible happened. The global magnetic field shifted by a measurable fraction, just enough to throw off compass readings by half a degree. But the change wasn't chaotic. It followed a pattern, the same geometric lattice found in the signal. Our planet itself has become part of the transmission, a resonant node in a structure far larger than anything we can comprehend. Messages pour in from the public, some in fear, some in awe. People describe strange coincidences, dreams of spirals, clocks that stop for exactly 8 seconds, children waking in the night, humming the same low tone recorded in the observatories. Psychologists call it mass suggestion. Physicists call it quantum resonance. I call it contact. The object no longer appears as a distant speck. Through the telescope, its form resolves into something astonishing. A sphere of shifting translucence surrounded by a faint halo of vaporized light. No metal, no panels, no visible structure. Just motion, coherence, intention. When I magnify the image, I see that the surface itself is alive with movement, waves of luminescence rippling outward like breathing. It doesn't radiate heat. It doesn't reflect sunlight. It emits its own glow, faintly golden, like dawn through fog. As I record this, all major communication arrays are synchronized to the signal. The next data burst is expected within hours. Every observatory, every deep space antenna, every listening ear on Earth is tuned to the same frequency. There's a tension in the air, a kind of sacred anticipation. We're not waiting for invasion or salvation. We're waiting for understanding. And I can feel it coming. Not through machines, but through something older, through instinct, through the quiet recognition that whatever is up there, it's not foreign, it's familiar. Like the echo of a voice we've all forgotten but somehow remember when we close our eyes. I think about what it means for us as a species to be known, to be observed not as conquerors of our world, but as children learning to speak the language of the universe. And I realize this isn't a story of discovery at all. It's a story of remembrance. Because if Three-Eye Atlas has been watching us since the dawn of life, then contact isn't the start of something new. It's the moment we finally wake up to a conversation that began billions of years ago. And tonight, as the signal strengthens and the world holds its breath, I know one thing with absolute certainty: the eye isn't coming closer to us. We're the ones being drawn closer to it. The day of alignment arrived without warning, though we had been counting toward it for months. The eye reached geosynchronous position above the Pacific, a silent halo suspended against the night. Every telescope on Earth turned upward, every broadcast flickered for a fraction of a second, and then the world seemed to stop breathing. The signal that had pulsed for 18 months flattened into a single continuous tone. Not a sound, but a feeling, like pressure inside the chest, a vibration behind the eyes. And then it changed. It wasn't a message, it was a mirror. Screens across the observatories filled with cascading equations, ratios that mapped not to the stars, but to the molecular structure of carbon, oxygen, and water, the language of life itself. The amplitude fluctuations resolved into patterns identical to human brain waves under deep meditation. Somehow the signal was reproducing consciousness, transmitting the echo of thought across the vacuum. We were no longer observers, we were participants. The first visual contact came minutes later. The eye brightened, its surface splitting into 12 luminous arcs forming a ring around a central void. The geometry was perfect, impossibly symmetrical. The arcs rotated slowly, then accelerated, drawing lines of fire that converged into a single beam aimed not at the Earth, but at empty space. The beam widened, refracting into what looked like a gateway, a shimmer in the black, bending starlight itself. Behind the veil, something vast moved, not toward us, but across dimensions we couldn't measure. The data showed a surge in neutrino flux, a rise in background radiation, but no danger, no heat, no harm, just presence. For one brief instant, every electronic device on the planet synchronized. Clocks, pacemakers, satellites, even the atomic standards in Geneva, all clicked into perfect unison. Time itself aligned. And then, through every channel, the same phrase emerged. Not spoken in any tongue, but translated by every mind that heard it into the same words. We remember you. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the display, unable to breathe. Around me, the control room was silent. Some wept. Others simply stared. Faces lit by the golden light streaming through the windows, as the eye's reflection painted the night in dawn. For a moment there was no nation, no language, no division, just recognition, a collective memory rising from somewhere deeper than history. Then, as quietly as it had arrived, the light began to fade. The arcs folded inward, the halo dimmed, and the eye drifted higher, moving toward the shadowed side of the moon. Its signal weakened but didn't vanish. It changed tone, lower, slower, as if whispering a farewell we weren't meant to chase. Within hours, the object slipped beyond visual range. The gateway collapsed, leaving only the ordinary sky behind. In the following days, the world seemed different. Instruments returned to normal, but the residue remained, a faint hum embedded in the ionosphere, an echo that no sensor could fully erase. Plants grew faster under the same light. Migratory animals altered their routes. And humans, we changed too. Dreams intensified. People described visions of spirals, oceans of light, memories that felt older than civilization itself. Scientists dismissed them as psychological aftershocks. But deep down, we all knew something fundamental had shifted. The governments declared the event closed, labeling it a non-threatening astronomical phenomenon. The Celestial Contingency Program was quietly disbanded, but those of us who were there know better. The data still hums in the background, hidden beneath the noise of radio traffic, repeating at intervals that align with the Earth's rotation. One pulse every 24 hours, like a heartbeat reminding us it's still watching, still waiting. Sometimes, late at night, I replay the final transmission. I slow the waveform, invert it, translate it through every algorithm I know, and each time a faint resonance emerges. 12 frequencies surrounding a 13th, the same structure as the map, the same pattern as the stars. I can't prove it, but I believe the message isn't over. It's repeating, cycling, teaching. Maybe what we witnessed wasn't arrival or departure. Maybe it was an awakening, a calibration between two forms of consciousness separated by light years and epochs of evolution. And maybe that's what contact truly is, not a meeting of species, but of understanding, a recognition that intelligence, wherever it arises, speaks through the same constants, the same mathematics, the same longing to be known. When I look up now, I no longer see an empty sky. I see a mirror stretching across the cosmos, reflecting what we were, what we are, and what we might become. The I may be gone, but the silence it left behind isn't emptiness, it's potential. A waiting space between heartbeats, between transmissions, between who we were and who we're learning to be one day. The signal will return. And when it does, I hope we've learned enough to answer, not with fear, not with pride, but with the same simple truth it gave us. We remember you.